Hey guys, it's Arissa. Welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to do this for weeks now. I am finally reviewing the Emily Noel 83 collaboration with Makeup Revolution. Got these two right here. This is called the Emily Edit. This is an eyeshadow palette called the Wants and the full face palette called the Needs. So I will be reviewing both of these and show you guys how I used it today. But before we get into it, I want to congratulate Emily. I think that this was such a great collaboration for her. She really waited. In all these years that she's been on YouTube, this is her first collaboration. And kudos to her for waiting for a collaboration that really made sense and she didn't feel like it was jeopardizing her channel and the way that she talks about makeup. This is something that she really believes in 100%. As a subscriber of hers, I have so much respect for her and for her channel. I also want to thank Emily for giving us something that's one, really fun to play with, but also two, in a great price range. So with that said, I'm going to get into what I think of these palettes. I'm going to first start off with the Needs palette. This is a full face palette. First of all, this packaging, I know I've seen quite a few reviews on this already and everyone's talking about the really fun packaging. This really gives me some 90s vibes and I'm all about that because I was born in the late 80s and growing up in the 90s, anything that just kind of makes me think of the 90s I appreciate, and I also of course love pink. So this right here says Revolution, Makeup Revolution London, the Emily Edit, the Needs. You get a really great, awesome mirror here. So without blinding you guys, there is a really big mirror right here. Here is the bronzer, and then you have a matte powder for setting the under eye area, a blush, a highlight, and your eyeshadows. So this is a wonderful basic palette that you can take on the go, but also if you just want a no fuss all-in-one eyeshadow palette or a face palette that you can use in the morning if you're a mom, if you're a girl who has to go to work every day and doesn't really want to think about their makeup, like me, for example, this is a really good palette to have. If you're interested in seeing me apply everything, I will be doing that at the end of this video, but right now I'm just going to talk about what it's like to use these and my overall experience with these. So now I've had this for a few days and I have been using it every day just to test it out. And I really like the fact that it comes with everything that you need. It's not one of those cases where it's like, oh, I still have to reach for a separate setting powder or I still have to reach for a separate highlighter. It's all in here, and I think that the eyeshadows also give you a full look, which totally makes sense for something that Emily would put out because she talks about palettes and how she wants something that is all in one where you don't have to reach for another palette. So she was saying that these are all Makeup Revolution products that you can find in other palettes. So she took different palettes that she likes, found the shades that she likes, and then put them all together in her own edit, her own edited palette. So that's the concept here. And she said that if you're new to Makeup Revolution, this is a great way to try out their products, which was the case for me. Before this, the only thing that I had of theirs was a liner. So all of these face products, these eyeshadows, I had never tried before, and this was a great way for me to test them out. So in terms of the overall packaging, I do think it's very sturdy. So it is plastic, but I don't feel like this is gonna break or anything. It doesn't feel cheap. And this is $15. So I think you get a great amount of product here and good quality for $15. You could of course also use your ULTA coupon for $3.50 off 15. And in terms of the quality of these products, I've been really liking the looks that I come up with these eyeshadows. They're very basic, but also just enough where you can add a little bit of warmth to your look. You have honesty here, and you can also stay very neutral and cool if you want to just kind of stay in this realm. And I think there's a lot of versatility for how little eyeshadow you get. In terms of the face products, I really like the bronzer. I think the tone is a very nice medium, neutral. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. It's perfect for even contouring, which is what I did today. This blush shade I love. This is one of those shades where it doesn't look like much in the pan. Those are the kinds that I really like, and I am using that today. It gives you the perfect amount of peachiness without looking too warm. This highlighter, oh my goodness, now I understand why people like Makeup Revolution highlighters. I love how it makes it seem like your skin is glowing from within. There's absolutely no shimmer, no glitter in this. It just makes your skin look really healthy, and it's my favorite type of highlighter. So I have a feeling that this is gonna be my go-to highlighter for a lot of occasions because you could really build it up. Stay very light on it if you want, but then you could also really build it up. This matte shade here is good to set the under eye area. I don't just set my under eye area with this, I actually just go over it, kind of like I do with my Hourglass Diffuse Light. I just like to press it in this area here to brighten it up a little bit. It's very subtle, but I have been using it and I think it works great. So there are a couple things that I'd like to critique in this palette. So first up is having this black shadow here next to that setting powder. There have been a few occasions when this eyeshadow kind of kicks up and then ends up in my setting powder. So I've had to kind of like blow off the black eyeshadow off of this, or I had to kind of like scrape it off a little bit. So I think in terms of placement, I didn't really like having this black eyeshadow so close to something very light. So maybe if it were me, I would have moved the black eyeshadow down here and then brought the really light shade up here, just so it doesn't really compromise that setting powder. And my initial reaction to this too was that there's a lot of wasted space. Like this area over here, this right here, this right here. I would have liked it to be more of a rectangle bar of product across. That way you get a little bit more product as well, and you just don't have all this wasted space. Or if they wanted to even like chop this down a little bit here, that may have been nice to make it even more compact and portable. But those are pretty nitpicky things to say. I mean, overall, the quality is good, the shades are good, and I love everything else about it. It's just that in terms of packaging, I would have changed a couple things. Now, also mentioning here the names of these products, of course, Emily always says that she doesn't like having names of eyeshadows on that plastic film that you end up throwing away. It doesn't really make sense. So she has everything on here. So she's staying true to herself and what she always talks about. So I appreciate that. I also love how positive everything is on this. Courage, joy, gratitude, kindness, honesty, passion, peace, etc. So this again really does embody her. She's a very positive person on YouTube, and it just makes sense for her. Like, of course she would come up with really positive names for her eyeshadows and for her face products. I think overall this is such a positive palette, and it makes me kind of emotional thinking about how much I appreciate her genuine spirit and her honesty, and how she hasn't sold out, you know, like she just stays true to herself all these years that I've been following her. And so I just want to say congratulations, because this is such a big deal. And I don't know her at all, but just the fact that I watch her videos all the time just makes me feel like this is something that I could be proud to say I own and proud to say I support her. So now moving on to what I truly, truly love and recommend. It's this eyeshadow palette, and this is called the Wants palette. So this is what I initially bought on its own. I didn't think I wanted to get this one. I actually just ordered this first, and that's why it took me a while to really review these. So I got this first, so I got to play with it a little bit longer than the Needs palette, and oh my goodness, I love this palette. So an even bigger mirror here, folks. This is an amazing mirror. I absolutely appreciate this mirror. I mean, you could full on put this on your vanity and make this your vanity mirror. It's beautiful. Again, the packaging, very sturdy and great. Peachy, I love it. I get really good vibes from these colors. I'm all about it. So this again just makes sense for Emily in terms of a collaboration for her. You get so many different options in this. You can just keep going for like a good month. I feel like every single day in a month, you can come up with a completely new look, and it almost looks like it come from a different palette, but it's all from this. So just overall, in terms of looking at this color scheme here, there's just so many options, and that alone I think is a major win. And this is a $20 palette. You get 24 eyeshadows here that are great quality, and it's $20. Again, you could use a $3.50 coupon off of ULTA's website or in person, and it's such a good deal. So these are the eyeshadows that I used on my eyes today. I used all face products from the Needs palette, and then the eyeshadows I used today all came from the Wants palette. Overall, I just haven't had any issues with applying these. They're very easy to build up. That's another thing. Something like maybe a Lorac Pro eyeshadow is very pigmented straight away. It's like, boom, you pop that brush onto your lid and it's like so much pigment, which is why Lorac eyeshadows have a lot of fallout. This one is more of a buildable eyeshadow. I know some of the colors can be a little bit scary for people like us who just don't really like to go too far out of our comfort zone, but I think this is exactly what I need to be able to play a little bit with different looks, but then stay very true to what I want. In terms of blending these eyeshadows, I've been able to come up with some really good looks every single time. I haven't had a moment where I thought, oh crap, it looks a little bit bad, I have to redo it, or maybe take another brush to kind of blend it out even better. I haven't had that at all. Although I had a couple things with this palette that I would like to change, I wouldn't change a single thing with this palette. This is my go-to palette now. Even if you're an extreme makeup lover or someone who's just barely getting into makeup, or maybe you want to go for something very neutral and minimal, I think this is a great palette to have. I mean, it's $20. You can get $3.50 off at Ulta. And you get a lot of good quality eyeshadows here for very little money. I also want to go over the names real quick. She talked about this in her video, so I will link that below. And these are names that really hold a place in her heart. She has tributes to her daughters, her husband, her sister, her mom, and the fact that she came from a news background, you know, with Top Story, and Dark and Early is when she films in the mornings. I appreciate everything about this. This is the first time I am using Makeup Revolution eyeshadows, and I just always thought that they would have a little bit more of a hard, dry texture, but these are extremely soft and creamy. I love the formula, I love the way these feel, and this will be a great palette for fall and for winter. Just look at all the different potential color options that are in here. I love it. I'll go over how I did my makeup look today, and the way that I'm doing this is very much how Emily Noel 83 does it on her channel, so this is a nod to her. I started off with NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer all over my lids, and that is how I like to prime my eyeshadow, and I set that with the shade The Cream from the Wants palette. And then for a transition shade, I took Hobby all over the crease and really blended that out, and that's a very nice shade to build up. And that's a classic neutral matte transition shade that doesn't skew warm or cool. It's perfect, it's neutral. And then using the same brush, I like to build up my shades. So the next one I used is Midwest, and I will build that up in my crease as well. So next is Dues Paid. Very similar to Midwest, but a little bit deeper, a little bit more of a red undertone. And this comes off really warm on me. It is a warm shade in general, but a lot of shades pull extremely warm on me. So this is just enough where I feel like I'm really ready for fall. And this next shade is what I was building this look around. It is Top Story. It is a beautiful gold. I just pressed Top Story and dragged it across my lid, and it laid beautifully. I didn't have to use my fingers, I didn't have to wet my brush. And then to add some depth to the outer corner, which is what I always like to do, I took a matte dark brown, which is the shade Apartment. And then Dark and Early is my final step. I love putting matte blacks in the outer corner. It really gives my eyes depth, because alone my eyes don't really have a lot of depth. I have a monolid, so I like having these kinds of shades to really anchor the look. And then to highlight the brow bone, I added a shimmery off-white, which is Oh Heavens. So my eyelids are how I like to start my makeup, and then I moved on and I added some foundation, concealer, and powder. So next I went into the Needs palette. So I took the shade Courage, which is the bronzer, and really buff that into the areas where I would like to contour. So I took an angled brush and really buffed it in. I love the shade and it blends really beautifully. I don't think it looks choppy. And I also like that it's very buildable. Next, I took a different angled brush into Joy, which is the blush. And this is a matte blush. It's like a dusty peach, I would say. Under the eyes, very similar to how I used the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in Diffuse Light, I took Kindness, which is a matte setting powder. And this doesn't do a lot, it's very subtle. My favorite shade in this whole palette is Gratitude. It's the highlighter. It looks like your skin is just healthy and glowing from within. You cannot detect any shimmer, any glitter in this. It's just a pure sheen. To finish off the eyes, I already added my lashes. And then for the lower lash line, I smudged in some Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in Demolition. I used this in my last video and I love it. I smudged it out with the Sigma smudge brush, the E21. And I set that with the shade Capricorn from the Wands palette, which is a shimmery brown. And then for my lower lashes, a shout out to Emily, CoverGirl Clump Crusher Water Resistant in Very Black. And that is how I use these palettes. I also want to mention too, in this palette right here, because I didn't use the eyeshadows today, I like typically using the shade Love all over my lid to set my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. And then I'll go in with Peace in the transition crease area, and then Faith to really buff it in, Hope to anchor it a little bit more, and then Passion in the outer corner to really add that depth. I do prefer Dark and Early in the Wands palette over this shade right here. That is a matte black, and then this has a little bit of a micro shimmer to it. It kind of has like a pinky red micro shimmer, and this is actually, you know what this reminds me of? Blackheart from the Naked palette. Is it the Naked palette? Let me look. No, this one has Creep. Which one has Blackheart? Is it the Naked 3 palette? There is a black in one of those palettes that has a little bit of a pink red shimmer in it, and that's exactly what this is. So it still gives you a good anchor on the outer corner, but I do prefer a matte black. To sum this all up, I do think that these are worth the money, and really I think it's a steal to be able to get both of these for $35, and then you can also get a discount at Ulta. And I'm also not saying this because I'm a fan of Emily. I genuinely went into this wondering how it applies. I haven't tried Makeup Revolution before, so this is also kind of a review toward Makeup Revolution and not just Emily. And I think they hit it out of the park. I really love the formula of all these products. Again, the only complaints I had to do with the placement of the shade here and the use of space over here. That's it. In terms of the products themselves, I really love the way that these all apply. I'd love to hear from you guys too. Have you purchased these palettes? What are your thoughts on them? And if you had to choose one over the other, which one would you pick? Because if I had to only choose one, I would pick the Wands palette. And of course, having a travel-friendly palette like this is nice too. So it's just a matter of what you need in your life. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other questions about these palettes, please leave them in a comment below, and I will see you guys again in my next upload. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!